My name is Michelle Dediego. I am a medical assistant, breastfeeding educator, and I also interpret for the LMEP company. And I do the breastfeeding educator for Milkworks as well. Well, I had my first child when I was 15. Kind of did it on my own, didn't really have anybody. My background comes from being in the gang life from the age of 12. Ran away from home since I was 12, got my first kid at 15. I don't even remember seeing anybody breastfeeding, and in my culture, the Hispanic culture, the majority of them breastfeed because that's the number one thing that we have, but I just never really saw anybody breastfeed. It was just something, a natural thing that I wanted to do. And I started breastfeeding even at the hospital. I ended up getting a fever. And so I didn't know, my first thought was, I'm gonna get the kid sick. Let me get away from him, let me give him a bottle. Went and bought a formula and gave it to her for 2 weeks. Then when I wanted to put her back on the breast, she didn't want it anymore. Well, nobody at that specific time in 1997 told me, you can still breastfeed even if you have a fever. And so as the years went by, I ended up having my second child in 2000. My second child, by then, I was a little more educated. And I breastfed her, had the same thing. I ended up having a fever, cold, all the nice fun stuff you get. And I continued breastfeeding. And then so came along my third child, I breastfed him as well. The cracking of my nipples, that was the challenging. When I had my first child, I had that. And I, honest to God, thought my nipples were gonna fall off. And I was afraid, I was afraid, of that. And I think that was one of the reasons not being educated. I didn't force myself to continue breastfeeding even though she didn't want to. And back in 1997, there were pumps, not as nice as they are now, but they were the ones that you kind of just manually squeezed. If I would have known or somebody would have taught me, I would have probably done that and breastfed her through a bottle. But then in the back of my head was, oh, but what if she sucks off my nipple and I'm not gonna have a nipple? And, so it's being naive and being 15, not knowing. And so then the same thing happened with my second child in 2000. By then, I already knew there was a lotion you can put on because I asked more questions by then. But still, I thought, and I would put her on my breast. And my biggest challenges with that was trying to get her to unlatch because they just literally do that. And I literally would think every time she did that, it was gonna snap off. Even though there was half my brain would say, no, it's not gonna happen, don't worry. But the other side was insecure, and so that was kind of the biggest challenges I had with that. And with my son, it was just a piece of cake. If you introduce your baby right now, it's pure. Your baby just came out of your, womb. And not only if you breastfeed, you are giving him so much nutrients. You're giving him so much life. You're giving him so much natural things versus if you want to bottle feed and formula feed, not only are you introducing so much artificial things into your baby's body that the baby doesn't need, and if you have the milk, use it. And it's so easy at nighttime, you just put him on the breast, put him back in the crib, versus getting up, making a bottle, heating it up, giving it to the baby, burping the baby, less, cold, coughs, things like that, because your breast milk will have so much nutrients that your baby's body will intake and have, that you will have less of those kind of things like that would start. Or I probably would go on and on and on and on. Well, benefits to us as breastfeeding moms. Not only do you reduce your chance of breast cancer, then you do grow a bond with your child. As your child grows up, you have that more motherly. Not that you wouldn't with your other child, but you grow that bond with your children. Younger moms, that can relate with me when I, tell them my story. I had to raise myself with my child. So I had to do it all on my own. And that's kind of how I got started. And so now girls relate and they're like, oh yeah, because I have a kid of my own, my boyfriend left, or, whatever the situation might be. The majority of the ones I've helped at this point, since we started this CBE program, is mostly here at LMP, which are patients that come and they're brand new moms. And I have one that I am working with that has no nipples whatsoever. And so she has to wear it's a plastic device that they put on their nipples. And I think for me being there with her, it feels very satisfying because her herself feels like a failure because she doesn't feel as a woman because she doesn't have a nipple. And so here I come into this role and I have to make her feel not only okay with what's going on, help her with, yes, you can still breastfeed. There's all kinds of, and asking me, why am I weird? Why are my breasts not the same as everybody else's? No, your breasts are normal. We're just all built different, but we can still help you. It's like I'm trying to do that, like something that I would have wanted someone to do to me. And that's kind of the benefit that I'm getting out of here. I would tell them to do it. I mean, there's so much benefits to it, and a lot of women think, oh, but they're like sucking on my boobs, and my husband sucks on my boobs, because that's one of the ones I get a lot. Or my husband doesn't want to touch it because there's milk there. Well, you know what? It is what it is. And, and I always encourage them you gotta breastfeed. It's something natural for us to do. And I always tell them the pros and cons. There's a flyer that I normally give out to new moms that tells them the benefits of breastfeeding and the benefits of formula feeding. And then if they visually see it versus somebody telling you, and if you get both, somebody telling you and you visually seeing it, then they start getting educated. And then they start wondering, okay, so maybe it's not just, oh, because the husbands look at the breast, or my husband doesn't want me breastfeeding in public, or, well, no, there's so many techniques. And so, I think it's more educating the patients or people in general, and just letting them know that it's okay to breastfeed. A lot of phone calls from patients here. So I think I make a difference in that aspect. And so when I see that and I see the kids, they're like this small, and they come 2 months for the 2-month shots, and then like they're this big. It's like, yeah, that's your breast milk for you.